Okay, Tweezer, where are we?
We are at the Hilton Garden Inn in Tacoma, Washington.
Where are we going?
To the Temple Theater to go to the Decibel Magazine Festival and to interview Ghul of Mayhem.
Hey, nice to meet you. Hey, kid. Oh, you're filming. Sorry.
Hi. That's okay.
Nice to meet you.
We're very candid here. We're from
Perfect.
Portland. We're from the Mother Morgue podcast.
Okay.
And this is Tweezer, my partner in crime and daughter,
Super cool.
who is the author of Tweezer Time. She's a writer
Wow.
and a
good
music
for you.
aficionado. And she's here to do an interview.
Awesome. Happy to have you guys. Let me just shoot Charles a text and see if he's ready, and then we can go downstairs.
Thank
Try
you
to
so
find
much.
a quiet place. We'll do the interview, and then if you want, I can show you guys around a little bit.
Okay, sure.
Our descent into hell.
Yep. This is Tweezer with the Mother Morgue podcast. We are in Tacoma, Washington at the Temple Theater with, what do you want me to call you?
You can call me, I guess just call me Ghul from Mayhem.
Okay.
It's probably the easiest.
We are here with Ghul from Mayhem at the, what is the tour called again?
Decibel.
At the Decibel Tour. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so who are you?
I am the guitarist for Mayhem. Stage name Ghul, real name Charles Hedger. Yeah.
Tell me how you came to join Mayhem.
So I had known Hellhammer and Attila for a while beforehand, and I'd spoken with Attila many times about the potential to work together. And yeah, basically one day I just got an email from him. I think it was just after Christmas, just saying how's it going and blah blah blah. And I hadn't heard from him for a while, so I figured there was going to be a follow-up request or question. And then he just said, "Hey, would you want to come over and rehearse with us for sometime soon?" Which I did, and then that kind of went from there. So it was really just a case that we'd been wanting to do something together for a while, and then it turned out that this was the opportunity.
Okay. How does it feel to tour with this band, knowing about its history?
Well, as I said, I'd known the guys, for a couple of them, for a while before anyway, and I mean I'd already been in the industry for quite a while at that point. So I suppose the thing with it is part of the framework of the legacy. So it doesn't come up on a day-to-day basis or anything, but it's you know it's there. Everyone in the band has comes from kind of backgrounds, I guess you would say, that are slightly outside of mainstream polite society. My background maybe is not as extreme as stuff that happened within the Mayhem history, but you know it's the same kinds of people and that kind of thing. It wouldn't have been that strange for it to have happened amongst people I knew as well. So I suppose what I'm saying is it doesn't really faze me, because I kind of, yeah, I know the type of people. You know, I was surrounded by the type of people when I was growing up as well.
Mm. So how do you feel about your younger audience, like kids and teenagers, listening to this music and being fans of this music?
Well, I think it's great if they come into it for the right reasons. The thing that is important to remember is that when this scene was growing, it was a very specific type of person that was attracted to it, and it was very extreme, and it was very much the outcasts of society. And I think for the most part it still is, and that's great, because it means that we're still speaking to the same intrinsic element of humanity which inevitably comes around every generation, people that don't quite feel like they fit exactly the societal mould. So I think it's fantastic that we're still speaking to those kinds of people. I think there's also people who are drawn to it because of the legacy, because of the legend and so on. Those people tend not to last so much. For them it's more like a novelty, but we we have a new generation of fans every time we come around. For example, doing the US, doing a tour in the US, there's always another line of you know, people who've just become old enough to come to the shows, and that's fantastic. I mean, because it's what keeps us, the band, alive. It also means that we're still doing stuff that speaks to people, which is kind of the entire point.
So tell me about what is your technique for playing your instrument? Do you have like a name for it or anything?
No, I mean it's fairly standard technique. I mean I used to be way more concerned about technical aspects of my playing than I am now. I think that's part of learning any skill, is that you need to handle learning the mechanics of it, and then you sort of learn, even though it's the same with driving, you learn the mechanics of it, and then it just becomes like an instinct. So that's kind of where I am with it now. But it's pretty schooled technique that I have. It's fairly, I suppose you could call it conventional, but then I have spent so many years, I used to teach a lot as well, so I spent so many years refining and revising. I'm actually thinking about producing some teaching material at some point in the future when I have some time, because I think that actually, speaking about the way I play, it's tried and tested, so it's not like academic, it's been used for 25 years in the live environment, and I think that could be useful to people. But no, I don't know what the name for it would be yet, but I suppose you would just call it pretty much like conventional.
Okay. How are you feeling about playing tonight? Are you nervous? Or are you excited? Or are you
No, you don't really get nervous anymore when you've been doing it for this long. I mean, well, actually that's a lie. You do sometimes. There are days. It depends a lot on different things. There are some days, and I don't know why. Some days you get that gut, you know, that anxiety knot in your stomach. But usually the nerves only appear nowadays when we're doing something like the Wacken Festival, which is like, I don't know, 80,000 people or something like that, or, you know, these really huge shows, or if we're filming the shows, or, you know, the kind of thing where the inner voice starts talking to you, like, yeah, but what if you did make a mistake, or like, what if you do fall over on stage? Or, but for these kinds of shows, it's more like you just look forward to it. I think it's really important to remember when you do something like this for a living, that it's an absolute privilege to do something like this for a living, and there are so many people who would absolutely give everything they have to be able to do this. So you have to remember that on days when you're tired, or, you know, whatever. Like we had a border crossing last night, so sleep has not been great this last night. But no, you keep that in mind, and then you always feel good about going on stage. You always feel excited to play.
How old were you when you first started doing things in the music industry?
So I was about 23 or 24, I think. We would have had something like that. And what happened was, I had been doing various things, projects and bands and stuff, but nothing had ever really got anywhere. And I was getting a little bit frustrated with it, and I was starting to think, you know, maybe this is just not going to work. You know, maybe this is not what I'm destined to do. Even though it felt very much like it was. I was very kind of sure that this was the right path for me. But then one day, it's kind of similar to what happened with Mayhem. I just got a phone call from the wife of the Cradle of Filth drummer, asking me if I could fill in on a tour playing bass, which I did, and then that was it basically, and then I moved over to guitar, and that was kind of like the trajectory, and that's how I'm here now, effectively.
So, what was the first band you ever played for?
Well, the first band of note that I played for was Cradle of Filth. That was like the first, I mean, and that was a big jump because I had all these other projects and bands, you know, like, I can't even remember the names of them, to be honest, but it was a bit of a jump to go from playing to like 15 of my friends at the local bar to then playing to 2,500 people on the very first show that I did with them. And suddenly it's real. You've got techs, you've got a tour bus, you've got, you know, it's like, that's a big jump. Most people go on a stepping stones of sort of van tours, you know, then a bit bigger, and you know, you work your way up to that. So I went from kind of pretty much nothing right to the real touring level, which in a way was quite a privileged position to find myself in, but in another way, it took me a long time to really come to grips with what I was doing, and I think it was probably quite a lot more internally disturbing than I acknowledged at the time. You know, it's quite a jump to go from really wishing you're doing something and then you're suddenly actually doing that thing for real. I didn't really notice it at the time, but when I look back on it, I think it probably affected my mental health quite severely in various kinds of ways.
When you were younger, did you know that you'd end up being a musician or playing music at all, or like did you think so?
So, I didn't start with music until quite late. I always loved music, but I never started to really learn to do anything with it until I was about maybe 15 or something. I had like a brief affair with a keyboard playing when I was a bit younger than that, and I really loved it, but it never really became something that I had I don't know, I just didn't quite get onto the path of it. But I did have a gut feeling, like I said to you before, about when I was sort of so sure that it was what I should be doing, but I wasn't getting there, and that felt very wrong to me. So I suppose in a way you could say that I did kind of have a gut instinct that it was what I was supposed to do, but then probably everyone who wants to do it has that feeling, you know?
Yeah. Do you have any kind of advice for young people who want to become musicians?
Well, the responsible advice would be absolutely don't do that. Get a proper job. But really, I mean, if that's your calling, then you have to go for it. The thing is, you can swap career from, say, musician to whatever else, you know, any other profession in later time in your life. It's a lot harder to do it the other way around. You know, it's a lot harder to train as a psychologist and then flip to being a musician, you know, when you're in your late 30s or something. I would say while you're young and while you've got the opportunities and you've got the fire in you, go for it. Absolutely go for it. Be responsible about it and know that it's going to be an enormous amount of hard work and you might not make it. But you could say that about anything. I mean, you know, that's not a reason not to do something. So I would say if you really believe it and you have to be honest with yourself, because lots of people would love to be a musician, but they really don't want to do the work it takes. So you have to be honest with yourself. Do you really want it, or do you just kind of want it because it looks cool, you know, because it's hard work? And the bit that you see of it looks really cool. That's about 2%. You know, 98% is sitting around waiting for sound checks, or getting stuck at the Canadian border for 7 hours, or you know, doing like horrible 40-hour flights between Europe and Australia or New Zealand. So you have to really want it. That would be my advice. And if you do, then go for it.
So, do you like touring with bands?
What a question. No, I don't think anyone's ever asked me that, and it's a really good question, because the honest answer is I must do, because I'm still here. But I would say most of the time it's a very unlikable way to live, but it's kind of addictive. It's very difficult to explain. There's a kind of buzz, there's like an energy to it, which is extremely addictive, but all we do on the road is complain all the time about everything. But yeah, I mean, I must do. It's an adventure every time. You know, I've been doing this for a long time, and it's still an adventure. You still never quite know what's going to happen the next day. Usually, it's just a horrible, boring day with a show at the end, and then like onto the tour bus and to the next one. But there's always the wild card days where something crazy happens, or you get to see something amazing, or you know. So yeah, I suppose I do like it.
Do you need us to wrap up?
No, I've got time. If you've got more you want to talk about, then I've got time.
Where are you from?
Well, originally I'm from just outside of London, to the east of London, East Anglia actually, in England. So yeah, that's where I was born a little bit further north, but that's where I lived most of my life.
What would you say inspired you to be a musician? Was there like a specific band or anything?
Yeah, actually my major influence is probably going to be a bit odd. It's something I talk about quite often, but my major influence for the reason I got into music was John Williams, the composer who did Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Harry Potter. That's my ultimate musical hero of all time, and it's something that I return to constantly, almost on a daily basis. I think about something of his work. I've studied it inside out, and I do it all the time. I read the scores, and I'm obsessed with it. So that would be the reason I pursued music, probably. And then I got into other composers and stuff. And then I got into bands like Emperor and Enslaved and Metallica around the same time. And that was what inspired me then to want to play guitar. And so that's how I ended up actually pursuing music as a thing, you know.
So is that the same kind of music that you still listen to today? Yeah,
I mean, a lot of what I listen to is the same stuff that I listened to my whole life. I mean, obviously the John Williams stuff is just a no-brainer. That's all the time. But I don't even need to listen to it anymore because I can hear everything in my head. I can just sit down and listen to it because it's there. But I still listen to Emperor, I still listen to Enslaved. I listen to tons of different stuff though. I listen to lots of classical, modern classical mainly. I listen to lots of electronic music. I listen to a lot of Renaissance music as well. I have a pretty wide taste in various. It depends on my mood and the context and what I'm doing with the day, I suppose.
Yeah. So do you like being here in Tacoma? What do you think of Tacoma?
Yeah, it's great. We were here before. I saw a guy screaming at the pavement when I got off the tour bus. He was there for about an hour and a half. We were here in this exact venue about 14 months ago, I think, with Cannibal Corpse. And that was super good. The show was amazing. And yeah, it's a cool place. I mean, you've got a lot of beautiful sky and surroundings. I would love to be over there actually. We were in the trees and the fields, but yeah, it's a cool place. I haven't got to explore it so much. I like to wander around a bit. I went for a bit of a walk today. Didn't see too much though. But yeah, it's cool.
I think it's boring.
Yeah, I'm sure. Everyone says that about everywhere.
We're in Portland.
Yeah, we're Portlanders. We think everything's boring.
George Bush called us Little Beirut.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Well, I'm from a military town actually. It's a place called Colchester, and it's like one of the most interesting towns in England probably because you have so much history there. An insane amount of important events happened in that town. But even I thought, this is so boring growing up because it wasn't at all. It's just it's one of those things. Everything's boring when you're growing up.
So where do you live now?
Now I actually live in the Netherlands. So it's a lot more convenient mainly because of the international flights and stuff. Everything is, there's an airport in Amsterdam which is like the hub of Europe basically, or one of the main hubs. So it just makes everything really easy. So instead of getting, where it used to be like I would have to fly back say from Australia, an extreme example, and I would get back, I'd land in London, and then I would still have a ton of travel to get home. But now I'm basically just home, and I never have to worry about connecting flights or anything. Everything is just very simple.
Okay, I think that's pretty much the end of all of the questions I have. Do you have anything that you want to say that isn't related to any of these questions?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered some pretty interesting ground today. There's questions actually that you're asking are very unconventional, which is good because I get really tired of answering the same things again and again and again. So no, I think it's been pretty good actually.
Well, thanks. I've never interviewed anybody before,
Yeah,
but
right.
I'm trying my best.
Well then, yeah, stick with it then for sure.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for being here and letting me interview you. I didn't think I was going to be able to get an interview.
Yeah, no, you're welcome.
Yeah, I had reached out to some other manager and they told me to get out of here. They were like, no.
Yeah. We're trying to. I think with this band especially, it's quite important because there's just so many misunderstandings about this band, because there's so much legacy and legend. I think it's kind of interesting for people to hear a bit about the reality of it, and some of it is the legend is correct, but it's still how it works and the people involved, and I think people are often surprised about the kinds of things that influence us, or that what we do behind the scenes, that kind of stuff. I think it's pretty interesting for fans.
Okay. Well, thank you. I think that pretty much covers everything.
Right.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to come down.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's no way that's actually him. And then he was like, nice shirt, and I got really scared. I was like, holy big shit, was that actually him?
All right. schedule today, but that happened.
Okay, walk up.
Oh, we'll just close that door behind you there. Merchandise area here. Is this your first time seeing Mayhem?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
I've
that's
been
awesome.
so excited for months.
This is the best show to see because this is like the definitive Mayhem.
I've been excited.
Do they have any original members left or no?
There's like 2, I think. Is
Yeah.
there 2? There's 2, right?
1.5.
1.5.
Yeah, Necro Butcher is original, but Yum has been there for a very long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
A few people, not so many. Nice. Perfect. So I have to run back up to the bus. I don't know if you guys want to come back out the way you came along the stage, or if you want to hang here, go through the front. Up to you guys.
Okay, I think.
Where do you want to go?
Why don't you follow me this way? They can get some cool footage of the
Good.
side of the stage.
Right on.
Not that way. Abort. This way.
In reverse.
In reverse.
Is it underneath? Keep one.
I'll give you guys a little side stage here. So today we have a big stage.
Get a
So
really
we
nasty
have
ring.
Walk out
all
there,
the
Saskia.
space we need.
Getting a really nasty ring.
All right. Perfect. So we'll go back out. And then you guys can just go around and go
Do
to
our
the front.
thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much.
It's been an honor.
Good. It's always super fun to
And
see
you're
young
the
people
contact
who are-
person, right?